She wore a dead woman's jewelry to a meeting with murderers. Stella isn't just an assistant anymore. She's the bait. To prove he's not weak, mob boss Sebastian Ricci fastens his late mother's priceless emerald necklace around Stella's throat. He marches her straight into a private meeting of the city's deadliest crime lords to announce their engagement. But the real shocker, he uses her presence to manipulate a unanimous vote to completely eradicate their biggest rival. Let me set the scene for you guys, because this is where the madness begins. The scent of expensive leather and top-shelf whiskey fills Sebastian Giucci's office like a permanent fog. For Stella, that smell means safety, absolute power, and the terrifying, unreachable mafia boss she is hopelessly in love with. For 3 long years, her fingers have been flying across her keyboard, typing highly classified notes from the Berlini crime family meetings. The clicking keys are her only anchor in the swirling chaos of his dark empire. Outside his heavy door, a legitimate business hums a false tune, but inside, behind those soundproofed walls, the real, dangerous Underworld work breathes. Sometimes, the most toxic environments disguise themselves as the safest places in the world. She checks the clock. 6:47 in the evening. Most of the corporate floor cleared out an hour ago, running away from the heavy atmosphere, but Stella stays right in her chair. She always stays, waiting for Sebastian to dismiss her, praying his dark eyes will see more than just an assistant who buries his dirty secrets. Suddenly, the intercom buzzes, making her jump despite years of the exact same routine. His voice flows through the speaker, deep and carrying that gritty northern Italian tone that turns her plain name into a dark prayer. "Bring the revised contract," he orders. "Right away," she replies, her professional tone masking the wild hammering in her chest. The life lesson here is simple. Never let them see you sweat, even when your heart is doing absolute backflips. You have to hear this. He told her once during a fragile, late-night moment when sheer exhaustion stripped away his iron guards that her name meant stars. He had studied her from across his massive desk with a burning intensity that made her face flush. But then the phone rang, shattering the spell, and the stubborn man never spoke of it again. Now, she gathers the meticulous files. Her hand smooths down her navy pencil skirt, a nervous little habit she just cannot break. The silk blouse she wears is conservative yet perfectly fitted. In Sebastian's unforgiving, cutthroat world, a sloppy appearance is a fatal flaw, and she learned early on that he notices every single detail. It is a harsh reminder that in life, paying attention to the small things is usually what keeps you alive. The heavy door is already slightly cracked open when she approaches. She knocks twice, a quiet ritual, and steps inside the moment he barks a gruff command. Sebastian sits behind his desk like a ruthless mafia king on a shadowed throne, all sharp angles and terrifying, tightly controlled power. At 38, the guy is in his absolute prime, with dark hair slicked back from a face carved in cold marble. His Nicole grain shoulders over broad shoulders that carry an entire criminal empire without even breaking a sweat. But it is his dark eyes that undo her. They are bottomless, holding heavy secrets, unspoken promises, and a lethal danger she fears yet desperately craves. A quick life lesson for you all. Sometimes the thing that terrifies us is exactly what we end up chasing. She carefully places the morality contract on his desk, is terrified of disturbing his perfectly aligned world. Everything around Sebastian demands obsessive order, and she spent 3 years making herself indispensable to it. He does not even look up. His antique pen, worth more than her monthly rent, scratches the paper with deadly precision. Cancel my morning meetings, he orders, his voice flat. The review. Then he drops the bomb, telling her to confirm his dinner reservation for tomorrow night at 8. Il Giardino, the most exclusive spot in the city, where he always takes his beautiful, empty women. Know your worth, folks, because waiting around for someone to finally see your value is a miserable way to live. Her stomach instantly twists into a painful knot at the mention of that restaurant. The women he takes there look nothing like her. They wear custom designer gowns and flash-practiced, empty smiles. For two, she asks, fighting to keep her voice neutral, while it feels like swallowing shards of broken glass. He pauses, his expensive pen hovering over the ink. No, he says softly. Cancel it entirely. Pure relief and massive confusion crash through her system. When she confirms the cancellation, the Mafia boss finally looks up. The heavy force of his dark attention hits her like a physical blow to the chest. How long have you worked for me? He asks, his gaze piercing right through her defenses. Take note, the deepest cuts in life never come from a blade, but from a single heavy look. 3 years, 2 months, and 17 days, she answers, her neck burning with shame for revealing how closely she counts the time. A wild flicker crosses his dark eyes, vanishing before she can name it. He asks if he has ever given her a reason to doubt his judgment. Never, she whispers. Then trust me, he says, and accepts Seth's invitation. The words crash over her, making zero sense. Seth Donovan is his oldest friend, the dangerous enforcer who has been hovering by her desk for weeks, the exact man who just asked her out. Sebastian's jaw tightens hard, revealing the intense tension he is trying to hide. A classic life lesson right here. When a powerful guy tries to push you toward his best buddy, something shady is always brewing just beneath the surface. She struggles to understand his twisted mafia logic. She tells him politely that a dinner date feels like a personal choice, not a professional duty. He coldly ignores her defiance, dropping his dark gaze back to the papers. He makes it a direct order, stripping away her free will. Seth is a good man, he claims, loyal and honest by their standards, promising he will treat her well. His words are violently measured, each one landing like a calculated strike. He tells her she works too hard and deserves a nice evening out. A furious anger sparks deep in her chest. After 3 years of perfect devotion, this boss is casually handing her over to his enforcer. Never let anyone treat your hard-earned loyalty like a temporary inconvenience. The sting of rejection pushes her to strike back. She thanks him, her voice dripping with venom, for managing her pathetic social life. She sarcastically asks if she should put the mandated date on the official office calendar. His eyes snap up, a terrible, lethal danger flashing in his gaze. Careful, Miss Romano, he warns, his voice dropping to a terrifying rumble. The invisible wall slams back into place. She straightens her spine, refusing to let him see the hot tears burning her eyes. She asks if that will be all. You are dismissed, he clips out like ice. She turns on her heel, marching out with every ounce of dignity she has left, pulling the heavy door shut behind her with a sharp click. Always keep your chin up, folks, even when your heart is breaking in half. Back at her lonely desk, she sinks into a chair, pressing trembling palms against the cool wood, steady her racing heart. Her phone buzzes with a message from Seth, asking for her answer. The big guy promises excellent wine and good company. Good be. She stares at the glowing screen, Sebastian's cruel dismissal echoing in her ears. 3 years of hoping, of organizing her soul around a man who treats her like basic office furniture. In a wild blur of desperate spite, she types back, "Tomorrow works at 8. Seth replies instantly, excitedly telling her to wear something beautiful. His open, eager energy is a jarring contrast to Sebastian's locked-away shadows. Sometimes we run toward the brightest light just to escape that room. Seth absolutely does not play sick mind games. What you see is what you get with him, and maybe that is exactly what she needs. She angrily packs her bag, totally ready to escape the suffocating office. Just then, Sebastian's door swings open. He stands there without his jacket, sleeves rolled up over thick forearms that she has spent way too many hours staring at. The tight pull of the fabric across his chest feels like a crime. "Stella," he says. Before he disappears, he stops in the doorway and drops a massive bomb. "Wear the blue dress," he murmurs. "The one from that charity gala last spring." Her breath literally catches in her throat. This cold boss actually remembers a dress she wore 6 whole months ago to a packed room where they barely spoke. She calls him out, telling him that is a super weird level of interest in her wardrobe. Seth likes blue. He lies shutting his doors with a heavy finality. Stella is left frozen in the silent reception area. The man who notices everything but reveals nothing has just styled her for another man. The puzzle pieces are completely scrambled. But never forget, the smallest business details will always reveal what they truly care, no matter how hard they try to deny it. Fast forward to later that night, and the drama is far from over. Stella is lying there, awake in the dark, tossing and turning while the day replays in her mind like a broken record. Her ceiling feels like a movie screen, flashing every mix Sebastian's Bastian ever gave her. One minute he is pushing her into the arms of his top enforcer, and the next he is obsessing over a blue dress she wore half a year ago. It is psychological warfare, and she is caught right in the middle. She stares out the window, wondering how I started this crazy romantic thriller. Because here is a hard truth. Everyone is the hero when you let someone live rent-free in your head. They will keep you up way past your bedtime, tearing your hard-earned peace of mind to absolute shreds. Let me paint the picture for you guys. Sebastian's next text comes through with a speed that screams pure desperation. He claims that blue dress is his, demanding she wear something else. Stella's fingers tremble against the glass as she fires back, reminding this stubborn Don that he forced her into this dinner with Seth. 3 agonizing minutes crawl by. Then 5. Finally, he surrenders, telling her to just enjoy the evening. Stella throws her phone across the bed, a massive knot of confusion twisting in her chest. Sleep only brings ghosts and whispers of things he never actually said. It is crazy, right? But it just proves that sometimes the hardest chains to break are the ones we desperately want someone to lock around us. Morning arrives with a grey sky, matching her mood perfectly. Guys, you and I both know the absolute drain of wrestling with your own thoughts at 3 in the morning. Stella is on fumes, playing Sebastian's crazy words on a loop in her head. She straight up refuses to wear that blue dress he loves, leaving it on the closet door like a miserly fiddle finger to his control games. Instead, she throws on a dark burgundy number to show him she means business. But when she rolls into the executive suite at 7:30, the vibe is way off. Even Marco, the tough security guard, is giving her these heavy, knowing looks. It just goes to show a simple truth about life. We can put on our fiercest armor to look tough on the outside, but people can still see the quiet, messy wars we are losing on the inside. Marco gives her this super careful greeting, totally hiding whatever mob secret he knows behind a blank face. Stella just clicks her heels across the marble floor, burying herself in her emails to keep her sanity intact. Then, at 8:15 exactly, the private elevator dings. Enter Sebastian. Now listen, This guy is a ruthless underground kingpin who usually looks like $1,000,000. But today, he is a total wreck. We are talking dark circles under his eyes, and his tie is actually undone. The untouchable boss is literally falling apart in his own lobby. He mumbles a rough good morning to her. You know, it is a hard life lesson to swallow. The most brutal beatdowns we ever take are against our own hearts, and that damage always shows up in the daylight. So get this. Instead of marching to his office like he always does, the big boss literally stops right at her desk. He tells her the massive Moretti meeting got moved to 10 o'clock at Antonio's underground club. But he does not walk away. He just stands there, planting those lethal hands on her desk hands that could literally order a hitman or crush a corporate merger. Stella takes one look at those dangerous fingers and lays down the law. She tells him straight up, if he wants to apologize for his wild behavior, they need to do it behind closed doors. She is incredibly bold for this, but here is the life lesson we all learn eventually. You can spend years building these huge walls to protect yourself, but one lingering look from the right person will smash them to dust. He respects her guts, leading her into his massive office and letting the heavy door snap shut. He turns his back, totally stressed out, and admits that he crossed the line. But the second he turns around, oh man, the intense fire in this mafia boss's eyes nearly makes her pass out. He flat out refuses to apologize for his feelings. The guy literally stalks toward her like a dangerous predator, trapping its prey in a corner, dropping his voice to tell her she looked absolutely gorgeous dress. He is putting all his cards on the table, and honestly, that brings up a really simple truth about human nature. When someone stops playing games and tells you their absolute truth, it just slices right through every single defense mechanism. The big boss drops a total bombshell, whispers that he belongs right by his side, not hiding behind a desk. Stella fires back, demanding to know why he is trying to shove her into Seth's arms if he actually feels this way. His jaw practically snaps. He tells her Seth can give her a normal, safe life, away from his dark underworld violence. But Stella completely loses her filter and asks, what if I actually want all your messy complications? Boom! His eyes go totally black. He is about to make a huge move when her phone suddenly buzzes and ruins the entire moment. It is the worst timing ever, but that is a brutal lesson about life, right? The exact moments that are supposed to change our destiny forever are almost always ruined by the stupid random noise of the everyday world. Of course, it is a text message from Seth, begging to hang out tonight. Sebastian glares at the screen, and you can practically hear the steel vault locking shut inside his head. His rare softness vanishes, replaced instantly by his scary mob boss persona.
He turns to pure ice,
barking at her to text Seth back and not keep the guy waiting. Stella stumbles out of that office feeling like she just got hit by a truck, completely heartbroken. It teaches us a really sad life lesson. We violently push away the ones we care about because we think we are protecting them from our mess, totally blind to the fact that our harsh rejection is what actually causes the deepest damage of all. Meanwhile, Marco just quietly watches the whole tragic mess unfold from the hallway. All right, guys, let's break this absolute madness down together. It's barely 10 in the morning, and the office already feels like a sketchy underground casino. Heavy and toxic, in walks Antonio Moretti. Total Mafia stereotype, right? The guy is basically a wolf poured into a $10,000 custom suit. He spots our girl Stella and gives her this dead-eyed, calculating look. He tells her she looks beautiful, saying her boss Sebastian is lucky to have her. But trust me, it doesn't sound like a compliment. It sounds like he's putting a price tag on her life. Her skin is absolutely crawling. A quick life lesson here: if someone's vibe makes your gut scream to run, you should always listen. Anyway, a few minutes later, you hear an intense, muffled screaming match coming from Sebastian's giant office. They aren't exactly screaming, but the bass of their anger is right through the drywall. Can't hear the exact words, but you need a translator to know things are getting violent. Finally, the door swings open and Antonio steps out, looking like total thundercloud. He stops at Stella's desk, slapping on the fakest smile ever. His eyes are completely dead. He leans in close and whispers the creepy threat, telling her to be very careful who she falls for, because not everyone is a good guy. Talk about a massive red flag. Then he casually strolls out, leaving her freezing in terror. Barely a second passes before Sebastian is standing in the doorway. He orders her inside, and his sharp tone tells you instantly that she doesn't have a choice. Walking into that office is like stepping in front of a loaded shotgun. Sebastian is pacing by the windows, radiating radiant pure stress. He demands to know what Antonio said. Stella swallows her fear and mentions that weird warning about being careful with her affections. Guy's ass straight up freezes. You can practically hear his heart dropping into his stomach. His jaw clenches hard. Finally, Azushi, he drops the absolute bomb. He confesses that Antonio knows all about her private dinner date with Seth. Stella is totally floored. The betrayal hits her like a freight train. She realizes that her boss used her dating life as a bargaining chip in a twisted Mafia deal. Here's a life lesson for you: never trust anyone who uses your personal secrets as leverage for their own gain. At this point, the shock wears off and pure, blinding rage takes over. Stella goes entirely off script. She screams at him, demanding to know why her private life was discussed with a mobster. For 3 straight years, she has protected his secrets and made his shady empire look perfectly legal. And his repayment is tossing her to a predator. She steps right up to him. Totally done playing the quiet secretary, she says she's kept in the dark while he hides the real bloodshed. She begs him to explain why a Mafia boss actually cares who she cheats dinner with. Honestly, if you ever find yourself giving everything to someone who won't even give you the truth, it's time to walk away. Right then, the cool, untouchable mask of the great Sebastian completely shatters. Listen to this, because the plot twist here is absolutely insane. This is where the brutal truth finally spills out. Sebastian looks at her, totally destroyed, and admits that the entire criminal underworld knows he's deeply obsessed with her. They see the way he watches her. His voice drops, shaking with pure fear, as he confesses that his enemies know she is his one true weakness. To destroy the boss, they just have to break the secretary. It turns out this date with Seth was never just a date. It was a sick, twisted trap. Antonio actually set the whole thing up to test him, claiming that keeping Stella around would just get her killed anyway. The lesson here is simple, true love should always make you feel safe. It should never put a giant target on your back. Stella is totally losing her mind now. She asks what the trap was even testing. Sebastian admits it was a test of his control, to see if he would pick the Mafia over his own heart. And guys, he failed the second he told her to wear that blue dress for another man. Stella is in a freefall, realizing he tried to push her away just to prove to his rivals that she meant nothing. Sebastian lets out a painful, broken laugh. He confesses he's been going crazy all night, picturing this other guy touching her hand, hating every single second of it. He finally admits the dark truth Antonio was. Staying with him is just too dangerous. Look, sometimes the bravest thing you can do for someone you love is to let them go entirely before they get caught in your own messy crossfire. Guys, this scene is absolutely fire. Sebastian is trying to play the ultimate protector, dropping that heavy, terrifying word mine. He looks her dead in the eyes and says he can't protect her if she belongs to him. But Stella? Bro, she isn't backing down at all. She steps right up, chest to chest, calling him out for never asking if she wanted to burn in his chaotic mafia world. He tries to pull the alpha card, claiming her safety isn't her choice to risk. She hits him with the ultimate reality check. It's wild how we try to control for the people we care about. Sometimes the realest love isn't shielding someone from the storm, but just having the guts to stand right there in the rain with them. The tension in this room is thin enough to strike a match on. Stella is standing her ground like an absolute boss. She asks if he seriously thought she stuck around for a paycheck, or missed him staring a hole through her. You can physically see Sebastian is cracking. The big bad Don is losing his iron grip, looking utterly exhausted. He begs her to just walk away, to go out with the safe guy Seth, and bury this drama forever. But the silence that follows is deafening. She straight up refuses to lie. When she forces him to admit what he really wants, he bleeds out one single word, everything, honestly. It's a huge wake-up call. All you can ever do in this life is tell the absolute truth about what you want, even when it completely terrifies you. Listen to this. You and I are about to unpack an absolute meltdown. Sebastian finally his confession exploding out of him. He admits he wants to fire Seth on the spot just for asking Stella out, and broadcast to the entire city that she belongs to him. His fists are clenched, fighting his own toxic mafia instincts. But Stella is totally done playing the helpless secretary. Her voice is shaking, but she tells the big boss to stop dictating her life. She knows his dark reality and refuses to run. Right as her epic comeback hits him, the office phone screams, wrecking the vibe, and she answers it out of reflex. We all try to hide, letting them choose to walk through the fire with us. The voice on the other end of that phone is dangerously smooth, totally unfamiliar, and terrifying enough to turn Stella's blood to ice. The caller is super polite, claiming they have heard so much about her. The second Stella asks who is calling, Sebastian's entire body goes absolutely rigid. His face turns into pure murder mode. The creep casually wishes her luck on her date with Seth, hiding a massive death threat behind a sweet tone, hoping nothing tragic goes down. Boom, dial tone. Stella's hand is visibly shaking as she hangs up. Sebastian's jaw is clenched so hard his muscles are popping. That soft, vulnerable guy from 2 seconds ago is completely gone. It is a harsh reality check for everyone. Just when you think you finally get 5 seconds of peace to figure out your feelings, the chaotic outside world kicks the door off its hinges to ruin everything. That emotional guy is instantly swallowed up by the ruthless crime boss Stella has only ever seen in terrifying flashes. Sebastian roars for Marco, his voice slicing right through the heavy oak door. His top enforcer bursts in with his weapon already half-drawn, ready for war. Sebastian orders him to take Stella down to the bunker and trace that call, his cold eyes deadlocked on hers. He drops an absolute ironclad rule. Nobody even breathes her air without his direct say-so. Stella tries to clap back and stop this total overreaction, but he shuts her down with a tone that could freeze water. A threat was made, and the Don is locking down his empire. It is a wild lesson to learn. When pure panic takes over, our first instinct is to build massive walls around the people we love, totally forgetting that sometimes those walls just turn into a prison cell. Sebastian spells it out with zero hesitation. That creepy call was a massive flex. His rivals know her exact schedule, proving they can touch her whenever they want. Marco steps up to grab her, but Stella plants her feet and totally refuses to budge. She throws his own toxic rules right back in his face, screaming at him to stop playing God with her life. She refuses to cower in a hole while he fights this Mafia war by himself. You can actually see a flash of real respect in Sebastian's eyes, fighting a losing battle against his total panic. He warns her she has no clue how bad this gets, but she yells back, demanding the ugly truth instead of his fake safety net. It is a huge wake-up call. Real safety is never about keeping someone in the dark. Actual trust is handing over the heavy, ugly truth and carrying it together. Let's pause here and think about what it actually takes to terrify a ruthless mob boss. Stella demands names, refusing to back down. Sebastian shoots Marco a heavy, silent glare, forcing his enforcer to step away. Sebastian walks straight over to Crystal decanter and pours a massive glass of scotch. Stella notices this immediately. The boss never drinks before sundown unless someone is about to end up in a barrig. He drops the bomb. It is the Calabrese Syndicate. These guys have been poking his empire for months, hunting for a weak spot. He stares right at her, his eyes burning, and admits she is the weakness they want to exploit. He downs the drink in one vicious gulp. It really hits hard when you realize our biggest flaws in life aren't the skills we lack. Our greatest vulnerabilities are always the people we fall deeply in love with. Stella pieces it together, whispering that the Mafia wants her because the boss cares. Sebastian shuts that down instantly. He tells her, no, it is because he is completely in love with her. He drops this massive confession like he is reading a boring grocery list. 2 freaking years. He admits he fell for her during a miserable late-night audit when she passed out at her desk with ink on her face. The memory smacks Stella right in the chest. She remembers waking up in the dark, swaddled in his expensive suit jacket, smelling his cologne. He was just this dark shadow staring out at the city lights, talking to her so softly. It goes to show that real, intense love never actually starts with crazy movie fireworks. It sneaks up on you during the most boring, exhausted moments of your life, totally catching you off guard. Stella finally gets it. The boss of the played it called to keep the target off her back. Sebastian sets his glass down so carefully. It is honestly terrifying. He admits he spent 2 garbage years building a massive brick wall between them, acting like the ultimate jerk boss. It totally worked until Seth had the nerve to ask her out, and Sebastian's icy mask shattered in front of the worst mobsters. His jaw is ticking like crazy. He hates himself right now. He swears he tried to walk away, and telling himself she deserved a normal guy with clean hands, but his biggest rival, Antonio, smelled that hidden jealousy from a mile away and realized keeping her nearby without security was signing her death warrant. It is a brutal truth. You can lie to your own mirror about your feelings all day long, but the predators watching your every move will always see right through the act. The Don spells it out. If his own crew could see him sweating over her, the whole criminal underworld already knew. He was stuck with a horrible choice: claim her publicly or completely banish her. Sebastian turns away, staring out at the pitch-black city. He admits letting her go on that date was supposed to be his grand, agonizing performance. He wanted the rival gangs to think she meant nothing to him, but that insane phone call totally blew up his plan. The rival family saw right through his magic trick, and now know they exactly where to plunge the knife to make the king bleed. Hearing the total despair in his voice, Stella actually steps closer to the monster. This just proves that trying to play chess with your own heart is totally reckless. When we pretend not to care, we just leave the people we love standing right in the line of fire. Stick with me here, this is where the whole dynamic flips. Stella asks what this cartel actually wants. Sebastian turns around, armor completely gone. He tells her they want the throne.
They want his total submission. If a fatal mistake, Stella is the ultimate bait to ruin Lucas.
Then he instantly snaps back into dictator mode. He starts barking orders, cancel the date, accept bodyguards, and hide in a safe house. Stella gets absolutely furious and cuts him off. She accuses him of shoving her into a literal birdcage. He tries to call it protection. She calls it straight up control. She steps right into his space, completely calling out his toxic hypocrisy. It is a huge reminder that wrapping a chain in bubble wrap doesn't make it a hug. Real love actually takes the guts to let your partner fight right beside you, not hide behind you.
Sebastian totally snaps. He tells her straight to her face that what she wants means absolutely nothing when her life is on the line. Those harsh words just hang there like toxic smoke.
He closes his eyes, clearly hating how vicious he sounds. But Stella isn't backing off an inch. She tells him he meant every single word. To this mob boss, cagging her up is fine as long as she has a pulse. But then the terrifying king of the underworld just shatters. His voice actually cracked. He confesses that if she caught a bullet because of his mess, he literally wouldn't survive the guilt. The absolute agony in his voice knocks the wind, knocks he out of Stella. This guy orders hits without blinking, but the idea of a scratch on her completely destroys him. Life has a funny way of proving that your biggest flex and your absolute kryptonite are always the exact same thing. The people you love unconditionally. Stella lowers her voice into this steady whisper. She demands a real choice, not some mafia boss ultimatum. Sebastian just stares at her, pure desperation raging in his eyes. He gives her two miserable options. Let him lock her down with 50 guards, or walk out that door right now so he can trick the cartel into thinking he doesn't care. But Stella sees right past the scary mobster act to a guy who is absolutely suffocating from panic. He isn't trying to be evil. The dude is just terrified. He swears these are the only two options. But Stella looks at this broken guy and demands a secret third option. What if she refuses to run, refuses the safe house, and just stands right in the crossfire by his side? We are always trying to organize life into safe boxes, but the absolute best paths demand we walk straight into the inferno together. You and I are going to decide right now. Is this girl completely insane or just legendary? Stella pushes him harder. She tells the Don to stop playing games and claim her openly. She wants him to tell the entire underworld that she is his. It doesn't make her look weak at all. It is a straight-up battle cry. If these guys are going to paint a target on her back anyway, she wants to stand in the spotlight, wrapped in the terrifying power of his name. Sebastian's eyes absolutely ignite with this crazy hunger. He steps right up to her, warning her that making it public, permanent tattoo. There is zero going back. She will be chained to his nightmare of a life, taking on every enemy and stray bullet. Loving someone for real means signing up for the whole package. You don't just the fun stuff. You have to swallow the terrifying darkness too. Sebastian is dropping a massive reality bomb onto Stella, telling her straight up that her quiet life is officially over. We're talking 24/7, security, scary guards, and zero freedom. But Stella is not playing the damsel in distress today. She cuts him off, throwing down pure main character energy, and refuses to be locked away like some helpless princess. If she is stepping into this Mafia madness, she is doing it as an absolute equal. In a split second, Sebastian closes the gap. His hands cradle her face with a crazy, aching gentleness, searching for any doubt. He makes a hardcore vow right there. Once he claims her, he is never letting go, no matter what fell rains down. You and I can learn a solid life lesson here. Real devotion is not about giving up your power, but combining it to face the dark together. The tension in the room is totally off the charts. Sebastian looks at her, his voice absolute ice, and orders her to cancel that safe dinner dates with Seth. He says everyone needs to know she belongs to him. But Stella does not blink. Her pulse is hammering, but she stares right back and tells him to prove it. Do not just talk. Show the whole city. That sparks a fierce possessive shadow across his face. He calls in Marco, his top enforcer, and issues the ultimate boss order. Book the exclusive room at Il Giardino for 8, and send a message to every single Mafia family in town. Make sure the rival Calabrese crew hears it first. You and I both know the real lesson here. When you finally decide to claim your territory in life, Utcher, you have to make it so loud that everyone is forced to listen. Marco barely raises an eyebrow, shocked but totally professional. He nods and asks what else the boss needs. Sebastian does not miss a single beat. He tells Marco to call the jeweler because he needs a diamond ring by 7 tonight. Stella practically stops breathing. She tells him this is moving way too fast, but Sebastian is a wall of iron. He says there are no half measures. She will wear his ring for the whole city to see. Then he drops the hammer, admitting he has waited 2 agonizing years for this. Talk about a crazy plot twist. Just this morning, she was living a chill life, chill as leave, as his normal assistant. Now, she is the marked obsession of a ruthless mob king. The lesson here is simple. Life can flip completely upside down in a matter of seconds, so you always have to be ready to adapt to whatever chaos comes your way. Stella holds her ground, telling she meant every single word. Sebastian gets this dangerously focused look. He orders her to go home and pack, promising Marco will watch her back. Return by 7, he says, so they can show the city exactly who she belongs to. That level of intense possessiveness should be totally terrifying, but for Stella, it just ignites a wildfire. She brings up Seth, the innocent guy caught in this drama. Sebastian clenches his jaw and says he will handle the guy himself because he protects what is his. Stella walks out of that office in an absolute daze. The staff just watches her pack, sensing the massive shift in power. Here is a serious truth to remember. When destiny finally grabs the steering wheel of your life, you have to stop fighting the turn and just brace yourself for the ride. In the underworld, gossip spreads faster than a viral meme. As Marco holds the elevator, Stella feels her phone buzz. It is a text from Seth asking about their date. A massive wave of guilt hits her. Seth is a good dude offering a chill, normal future. Now she is ghosting him because a terrifying Mafia boss just confessed a 2-year obsession. Wild, right? Before she can type an apology, another message pops up.
It is Sebastian, it's Jess. Just to trust his. You and I need to realize something important here.
True passion rarely takes a safe, predictable route. Stella dropped her phone into her bag and set this right into the elevator, leaving her boring past behind. She is diving headfirst into the dangerous, intoxicating unknown, and she is absolutely ready for the fall. The black sedan completely blows past Stellia's regular apartment. Instead, Marco rolls up to this massive glass skyscraper in the most ridiculously rich part of the city. We are talking doorman wearing actual white gloves. Stella is freaking out, saying this is not her house. Marco's face is a total brick wall as he tells her it is boss's orders. She is staying at one of Sebastian's private properties until the heat dies down. The craziest part? He casually mentions all her belongings have already been transferred. No warning, no permission. Just done. The sheer overwhelming control hits her like a heavy truck. It is totally suffocating. But Marco just looks at her with cold truth and says the boss is protecting her. The lesson here is tough but real. Sometimes, ultimate safety looks exactly like a locked gilded cage. Marco's reality check hits hard. Her old apartment had zero security. Literally anyone, especially those rival hitmen, could have just kicked her door in. So, despite how controlling this is, she knows it is necessary. They ride the elevator up to the 20th floor, stepping into a massive penthouse that takes up the entire level. Stella is blasted by an insane level of wealth. Floor-to-ceiling windows show off the entire city's skyline. The furniture belongs in a museum, and there is a straight-up priceless painting hanging right over the fireplace. It is absolutely mind-blowing stuff. But as she looks around this empty, flawless mansion, a chilling realization sets in. Always, Maze, remember to check the locks on your major life upgrades. Because right now, Stella is just a beautiful bird trapped inside a cage made of solid gold.
Marco points out the master suite, saying her clothes will drop in an hour, and anything else will be bought instantly. Stella wanders through this massive, silent penthouse. It feels unreal.
Like she is haunting a 5-star hotel. It is stunning, but completely cold. Then she asks Marco a question that changes everything. Yeah, how long has Sebastian owned this place? Marco casually replies, 3 months. Boom. Has been building this secret fortress for months, waiting for the exact track to lure it away. It is a wild mix of romantic and totally sussico. Here is a golden rule to live by. Never underestimate someone who precisely builds a fortress in the background while you think they are not even paying attention. Stella is caught between being furious and completely amazed. She realizes aloud that he bought this entire place just for her. Marco just gives a polite nod and leaves. Stella checks the kitchen and her jaw totally drops. The pantry is stocked with her exact brand of coffee. He even has the specific dark chocolate she secretly stashes in her office. In the bathroom, she finds her favorite shampoo, her daily creams, down to the exact toothpaste. You guys, Matsman has been studying her life from the shadows like a textbook. You and I might call that a chilling invasion of privacy. But standing there, Stella realizes she has never felt so dangerously understood by anyone. Then her phone starts ringing. Pay attention to this lesson. Sometimes the very things that scare us the most in life are exactly what we have been secretly searching for. She picks up, barely breathing his name. Sebastian's deep voice asks if she is settling in. Stella grips the counter, calling him out for buying her a whole apartment. He corrects her instantly, saying it is a safe house, which is totally different in his Mafia brain. She pushes back, her voice shaking, realizing he has been cataloging her entire existence. The line goes quiet. Then, his iron tone melts into something so raw it hurts. He tells her that knowing what she needs is exactly how he protects her. He confesses to watching every tiny habit that made us accessible for 2 long years, asking if that is really so terrible. Guys, that is some intense, unhinged dedication right there. True care is not always about flashy, grand gestures. Sometimes it is just someone finally paying attention to the small things. Stella's throat completely closes up. She whispers that the whole thing is equal parts terrifying and romantic. Sebastian lets out a heavy sigh, admitting that pretty much sums up his entire existence. Rough voices shout in the background as his violent underworld life keeps moving. He says he has to handle some dark business. The jeweler arrives at 6, and he tells her to pick the right ring. Then his voice drops to this insane, dark rumble. He tells her to wear something powerful. Not the blue dress, because that one is just for him. Tonight he tells her to wear absolute armor. Boom. He hangs up. Talk about laying down the law. At exactly 6, the penthouse doorbell chimes. Standing there is a fancy older jeweler, flanked by 2 massive armed guards holding a heavy metal briefcase. The lesson here is incredibly simple. When you are forced to step onto a battlefield, you better dress like you are fully prepared to win the war. The guy introduces himself as Vincent the private jeweler and pops open the metal briefcase right on the massive dining table. As the lid opens, Stella actually stops breathing. Sitting on the velvet are diamonds so ridiculously huge they basically swallow the room's light. Just one of these rocks is worth her entire lifetime salary. Vincent explains that the boss was incredibly specific. The ring needs to be highly visible but never tacky. It has to scream unbreakable commitment without looking like a cheap prop. Stella stares at the blinding stones, feeling her whole reality crack in half. Just hours ago, she was at a desk typing up his corporate emails. Tonight, she will sit beside him as Mafia royalty, wearing a massive diamond that seals a deadly pact. Let this be a clear reminder that life comes at you incredibly fast. One single crazy duchess has the power to completely rewrite the rest of your story forever. Out of the flashy bling, Stella spots this insane piece, a square-cut diamond flanked by twin emeralds. She whispers her choice, locking it in before panic sets in. Vincent the jeweler smiles and slides it onto her finger, a flawless fit. Of course, the Mafia boss already knew her ring size. But here's the massive plot twist. Vincent casually mentions that Sebastian picked that exact ring yesterday. Stella completely freezes up. Yesterday? Then Vincent drops the real bombshell. He says the Don actually commissioned the ring 3 whole months ago, but only called yesterday to say the wait was over. Talk about playing the long game. It really goes to show that patience is everything. Sometimes the most beautiful things in life built behind the scenes long before we see them. Vincent tells her the Don is a lot of things, but impulsive isn't one of them. He's been planning this for ages. Later, Stella stands by a massive window, the diamond feeling like a literal ton of bricks on her finger. Then her phone buzzes. Ex-Tez. He says Sebastian called him and he finally gets it. Seth hits her with the hardest line ever, claiming they look at each other like everyone else is just a ghost.
He wants her careful, cause enough's does keep her warm, that's guys.
A fire like that comes with a massive price tag. It's a harsh reality to swallow, Seth.
We always have to remember that sometimes the things that look the most beautiful are also the most dangerous.
And we must decide what we're truly willing to risk.
Stella is standing there, totally haunted by Seth's final warning hanging in the air. She's seriously questioning the actual cost of Sebastian's insane, all-consuming obsession. Because let's be real,
love always demands a heavy toll. Suddenly, a sharp knock shatters the quiet. In walks an intimidating woman with piercing eyes, Claudia Ricci, Sebastian's aunt. For 3 whole years, Stella never saw this hidden family side of his mafia world. Claudia steps right in, her gaze slicing through Stella with the exact same terrifying intensity the Don has. It's obvious this lady knows absolutely everything about their secret drama. It really proves a major point about life. You can spend years building massive fortress walls to hide your true feelings, but fate will always tear them down. Claudia sinks into the sofa like an absolute boss, moving with the dangerous confidence of someone who totally owns the room. She straight up admits she was just waiting for her nephew to stop acting like a fool. She says this wild collision of their souls was always meant to happen. But hold up. Claudia isn't just there to chat about romance. She leans in super close, locking eyes with Stella, and drops a brutal reality check about the Underworld. She warns her that the rival families will treat her like an outsider, ruthlessly attacking every single vulnerability just to tear them apart. It's such a heavy scene, but it leaves us with a really powerful truth. We'll all walk into rooms in life where people make us feel like we don't belong, but it's our own fierce courage that keeps us standing. Stella has to figure out if she can actually handle the crushing weight of the Mafia world. You can practically feel the invisible bars of this dangerous cage closing in around her, remembering all the wild threats. She whispers that she honestly doesn't know if she can survive it, but she's willing to try. Claudia gives us this legendary smile, saying raw honesty is the only currency that matters in a world full of liars. Then, the aunt pulls out a tiny box containing a gorgeous gold bracelet with a single star charm, a cool nod to Stella's name. She tells you a story about her own mother walking into the mob fire and proving everyone wrong. Guys, as that gold clasps around her, it hits as deep. It's a brilliant reminder. True belonging isn't handed to you, is something you must fiercely earn. That bracelet isn't just some flashy Mafia branding to show she belongs to a man. It's a physical symbol of Stella's own boss choice to step into the fire. She's tearing up as she whispers her thanks, but Claudia totally waves it off. She warns that this dark path will bleed them both, but promises to guide her through the shadows. Right before leaving, Claudia drops a massive bomb.
The rival Calabrese family is literally circling like sharks, ready to strike. Sebastian is making a reckless move on the board just to keep Stella breathing. She tells her that in the incoming chaos,
blind trust will be her only defense. It makes you think about how unpredictable life gets. Sometimes you just have to close your eyes and completely trust the person driving, even when the car is spinning out of control. Stella is crossing the line into the underworld, surrendering to the exact guy her brain is screaming at her to run from. But logic goes out the window when your heart is held at gunpoint. By 7, Shu Kanchunste shows up to drive her to the headquarters. Stella is armed for battle in a flawless, sleek black Drenad dress. It's that dark armor Sebastian talked about, the kind that turned pure fear into absolute power. The office building is dead silent, except for the light bleeding from the Don's door. You can see his massive shadow waiting inside. Marco knocks, and the second Stella steps into the room. Sebastian looks up. The raw, desperate hunger in his eyes hits her like a literal freight train. It's a wild reminder that real passion can never be hidden. When you deeply want something, your eyes give you away. We know exactly what that wild look means. It's that insane mix of terrifying possession and total worship. The Sebastian S. voice is a rough whisper as he calls her stunning, his eyes locking onto the heavy emeralds she's wearing. She literally picked the ring of destiny. The Don steps away from his desk, looking like an absolute menace in a pitch-black tuxedo. He drops the fact that the emeralds match his late mother's necklace. He sent his aunt on purpose to test the waters, ensuring Stella knew how serious this mob union was. When she asks point blank what she's actually stepping into, he flashes a slow, wicked smile and just says everything. It hits right in the chest, doesn't it? Deep down, we all secretly crave someone bold enough to hand over their entire broken world just to keep us by their side. He means absolutely everything. Moving super slow, Sebastian pulls a velvet box right out of the shadows. Inside is this ancient, jaw-dropping emerald necklace holding all the ghosts of his past. It was his mother's wedding gift from a father who lived and died by the sword. His voice drops, getting dangerously quiet and revealing an agonizing vulnerability the Don never lets anyone else witness. He tells her the heirloom is hers now. When she tries to back out, he steps right behind her, shutting down the argument completely. He clasps the heavy metal around her neck. Tonight, the entire underworld will see his mother's jewels on her skin. It makes you realize how intense love can be. It's a truly terrifying but beautiful thing to be loved so loudly by someone who usually operates in total silence. So, what goes down tonight? Sebastian, massive hands frame her face, anchoring her in this Mafia storm. He drops the truth bomb that the real war is just, they have to walk this jagged edge as a team. She has to figure out how to be his without losing her soul, and this ruthless Don must learn to stop gripping the world by its throat. His thumb brushes her lip as he warns her about the rival Calabresi family. They won't back down just because he claimed her. If anything, she's now a massive target. But his jaw locks like pure steel, vowing that anyone coming for her must go through him first.
Then, boom, he crashes his lips into hers, with 2 years of starved desperation. It proves that connection demands a huge price.
You can't fully merge your life with someone else without changing who you are. Stella melts straight into his arms, and you can practically feel the Don's iron walls completely splintering. Underneath that cold boss exterior is just the frantic reverberations of a starving man who finally got his prize. When they pull apart, chests heaving, he rests his forehead against hers. He asks if she's ready to show the city exactly who holds her heart. They arrive at Il Giardino, an insane old-world restaurant with exposed brick that feels straight out of a movie. The moment they step inside, the host bows instantly, looking at Sebastian with a wild mix of pure terror and worship. Every single eye in the place locks onto them as they walk in. It's an epic flex, but it leaves us with an undeniable truth. No matter how tough you act, true love will always strip you down to your bare foundation. Sebastian has his hand planted low on Stella's spine, claiming her as they glide through an ocean of thirsty onlookers. He is strutting like a Mafia god who owns the universe, and the craziest part is he actually does. The whispers explode like fireworks. Everyone is losing their minds because this assistant is Elena Richie Necklace. You and I know rumors spread fast in a room full of six. They ditch the haters for a private room wrapped in thick velvet, killing the noise. Flawless crystals, massive windows, and a starlit garden make it a literal paradise. But here is a simple truth. You can build the thickest walls and buy the most expensive glass. But the most valuable thing in your life is always the person sitting across the table. He calls her beautiful, letting his hands linger on her shoulders. Under the dim candlelight, Sebastian drops the bomb that destroys her defenses. He booked this exact room 12 times over the last 2 years, only to cancel every single night. He could not stomach bringing a random date to a spot meant only for Stella. 2 agonizing years of lurking in the shadows. 2 years of feeding himself lies
She stayed away.
To keep her safe. Now, with eyes full of regret, he finally admits the bitter truth. He was not protecting her life. He was just terrified of getting his own heart shattered. The lesson here is brutal but so real. We constantly disguise our own cowardice as noble sacrifices, but running away from love always hurts far more than simply being brave enough to risk it. Let's pause and look at this absolute madness together. Sebastian slides his hand across the fancy tablecloth like he is straight up surrendering. The rival Calabrese Mafia totally forced his hand, proving they already knew Stella was his ultimate weak spot. By acting like she was just a nobody, he basically left her walking around a literal war zone with zero armor. Stella is shaking, but puts her hand right in his anyway. A waiter pours freezing cold champagne and dips into the shadows. Sebastian raises his crystal glass to the absolute truth, to finally claiming his girl and honoring her insane guts. Choosing a dangerous road when you know the exact price takes real strength. It teaches us that true courage means stepping into the fire with your eyes wide open. She takes a sip, looks right at this ruthless boss, and asks to hear about his family. Stella brings up the stories about his mom, calling him out on his silence. You can see the fracture in this dude's iron armor. He drops heavy lore, how his dad's heart gave out when Sebastian was 16, crushed by the massive weight of the mob empire. His mom faded out 3 years later. He sits tracing protective circles on Stella's skin, whispering his mom would have absolutely loved her stubborn spine. When Stella asks if he chases his mother's ghost, he fiercely shuts it down. Bro is obsessed with her because she looks at him and sees a regular man, not some absolute monster. It reminds us that the tightest bonds actually grow in the craters left by our deepest grief. He loves her because she falls asleep with ink on her face and still looks like perfection. They bring out insane plates of handcraft pasta, chest pasta. It's in dead silence. As they eat, the massive corporate walls they built complete shatter. Stripped of his cold boss persona, Sebastian totally transforms. He is still an absolute king, vibrating with dangerous energy, but there is an actual beating heart under that custom suit now.
The lesson here is that taking off your protective mask is the most but you have to risk it for true connection.
Over the main course, Stella drops the heavy question. What does her life actually look like tomorrow? He puts his silver fork down and locks eyes with her. From now on, his shadows will track her every single move. It is not about locking her up, but it is the absolute brutal price of keeping her breathing in his deeply chaotic world. Sebastian's voice is a heavy rumble in the room. He tells Stella her apartment is hers, but the wild truth is he wants her locked down in his penthouse. A crack of raw vulnerability shatters his tough guy act as he admits how badly he wants to wake up next to her. Stella feels a complicated warmth inside. He swears he will not rush this hurricane of changes, but his eyes scream a different story. He wants her in his underworld. She can stay his assistant, but strictly restricted to the top floor. No walking the streets alone. You and I both know that sometimes we think we are giving someone true safety, but we are actually just building them a significantly fancier cage. He leans back, straight up offering her a shiny throne in his dark, twisted empire. Bro starts hyping up her brilliant brain, completely hinting that her skills could run his shady mafia operations. Sebastian does not even blink when she hesitates. He promises to stop hiding his violent self, saying if she is his girl, she deserves the entire bloody reality. But before she can process that massive red flag, his phone totally ruins the vibe. One single text from Marco, and Sebastian goes from soft to absolute freezing cold boss. He mutters about an incident and is already booking it to the doors. He violently orders us to stay put. It just goes to show that life has an incredibly cruel habit of interrupting us the exact second we finally decided to drop our walls. He literally begs Hugsa not to argue just this one time, leaving this absolute suffocating dread hanging right in the middle of the room. The heavy velvet curtain slams shut, completely trapping Stella in this ridiculously fancy room. The silence is actually choking her, only broken by aggressive shouts from the Mafia goons outside. Every single second feels like 10 hours. She is nervously shredding a napkin, the massive ring on her finger flashing in the candlelight like a giant warning sign of the shady world she is signing up for. When the curtain finally opens, her relief instantly turns to pure dread. It is not Sebastian. Some younger guy walks into him with a totally hollow smile that does not reach his dead, empty eyes. He introduces himself as Dante Calibra, and her heart just stops. We constantly ignore the loud alarms in our head until the absolute worst predator is already standing in our living room, smiling directly at our face. The Calibra family, the exact Mafia nightmare Sebastian has been busting his back to protect her from. Stick with me, because this is where it gets absolutely unhinged. Panic floods her as she backs into the cold glass, demanding he get out. Dante just laughs in her face, bragging about how his boys faked a shootout outside to buy him this exact window. He creeps in like a snake, completely mocking how a ruthless kingpin like Sebastian would risk an entire empire for one chick. Stella screams at him to leave, but her gutsy attitude just makes him laugh harder. He corners her against the heavy table. The takeaway here is that true courage is not feeling zero fear. It is holding your ground when your reality is totally collapsing. He coldly drops the bomb that she is leaving with him right now. Dante sneers, promising they are going to have a long chat about Sebastian's brutal business moves. Stella absolutely refuses to budge, snapping right back. Then Dante's hand slides under his jacket, flying freezing cold steel of a piece. That fake rich dinner vibe is officially dead. He gives her the classic villain ultimatum, the easy way or the painful way. Fear is literally strangling her, but she hits back, telling him that shooting into here is a total suicide mission with Sebastian's army right outside, but is totally unbothered. Swaps the piece for a medical syringe, the needle catching the dim light. He laughs and says it is just a mild sedative. It is a brutal reminder that sometimes the quietest, most subtle attacks are the exact ones that absolutely wreck our lives the hardest. She promises that Sebastian is going to literally rip him to shreds. Dante just hits her with an arrogant smirk, saying they have to actually find him first. When he lunges, Stella goes full survival mode. She grabs a massive glass champagne bottle and swings for the fences. Dante completely dodges it, his sick laughter echoing everywhere because he loves this violent hunt. She lets out a desperate scream, scrambling away. Suddenly, the velvet curtain is violently ripped apart. Sebastian is standing there and his face is pure nightmare fuel. Total hollow killer vibes. It shows how she never fully grasps the dangerous monster hiding inside the people you care about until someone tries to take them away. Dante just openly mocks him, violently daring the big boss to start an all-out mob war. Dante freezes up, finally processing the terrifying, dead stillness coming off Sebastian. The boss drops a whisper that sounds like an open grave, swearing he will wipe Dante's entire family tree off the map by sunrise. You and I are going to look at it together, because that was not a warning, it was a guaranteed fact. Marco slides out of the shadows with his piece ready, backed by a literal army of goons blocking the doors. Dante throws his hands up with a disgusting smirk, claiming the game is not over. But Sebastian steps up, practically vibrating with lethal rage, stating it ended the second Dante targeted his girl. The hard lesson is that crossing the wrong boundary does not just bring drama, it absolutely seals your doom. He tells Marco to drag the trash out and teach him the final brutal cost. Marco grabs Dante, dragging him out into the hallway like absolute garbage. The heavy door slams shut. Sebastian covers the room in 2 steps. His hands, the same hands that Order rivals destroyed, are crazy gentle right now, grabbing her face to scan for a scratch. He demands to know if the guy touched her. Stella shakes her head, but the adrenaline totally crashes and she starts violently shaking. He pulls her into his chest, acting like a human bulletproof vest. He whispers she is safe, but his tone goes freezing cold when she asks how the rats got in. He admits a paid insider sold him out. Life teaches us this over and over. The worst betrayal always comes from your own circle. We build massive iron walls to keep enemies out, only to invite the real snakes straight to dinner. Sebastian says the traitors are getting handled, his voice terrifyingly calm. Stella pulls back, asking what is going to happen to Dante. He promises nothing goes down tonight, because it is strictly about keeping her breathing. But tomorrow finds out it's exactly what happens when you mess with his property. Stella literally begs him not to trigger a Mafia war over her. But bro, the war is already on. He drops the hardest line, saying she is his absolute limit, and anyone who crosses it pays the blood tax. She is terrified of his massive devotion. It is true what they say, love is stunning, but an obsessed love is a wildfire that will burn a city to the ground. It shows how insanely dangerous a man gets the exact second he finally finds something he can't afford to lose. Stick with me, because this moment is everything. Stella whispers she just wants to go on whispered dirt for the boring safety of her normal apartment. Sebastian shuts that down instantly. He tells her she is going straight to his penthouse, the one fortress in this city he fully controls. He drops his forehead against hers, asking to just let him protect her. She is way traumatized to fight back, so she just nods. The fancy date night is totally dead, replaced by the suffocating reality of living with a mob boss. As armed guards march them through the back alleys, the gravity of the situation hits her hard. We often jump blindly down a path, praying the thorns will not cut us. But every single choice comes with a brutal receipt, and reality will always track you down to collect its very dangerous debt in the absolute end. Guys, loving a literal mafia boss like Sebastian Ricci is like holding a loaded weapon right against your own neck. Stella stepped straight into the crosshairs of his ruthless ops, permanently making herself the perfect weapon they could use against him. But check this out, she chose him anyway. She looked at the red flags, the blood, and the terror, and said, I am all in. It really teaches you a harsh lesson about the human heart. We will willingly walk into a Category 5 hurricane if it means standing next to the person we truly care about. Soon, they roll up to his massive penthouse, taking up the entire top floor. She had never been up here, only picturing his lonely late nights in that private elevator. But stepping inside, the reality was completely different. This place was absolutely massive, rich dark wood, vintage leather, and floor-to-ceiling glass, looking out over the tragic glittering city. But the craziest plot twist? It actually felt like a home, not some supervillain lair. Stacks of worn books, a random coffee mug by the sink, a cashmere blanket tossed on the couch. Sebastian looks at her and drops the smoothest line, saying this is where he wants her to live. Meanwhile, Marco and the security squad are sweeping every shadow. On the ride over, Sebastian had been barking rapid-fire Italian into his phone, sounding like a total warlord, cold, absolute, terrifying. You know, a person's true nature always drops when things hit the fan. The masks we wear vanish the second our loved ones are caught in the line of fire. Now, the doors lock, they are finally alone, and the untouchable Mafia king is straight up having a meltdown. The weight of his empire is dragging him down. He is pacing in front of the windows like a caged lion, fists clenched tight. He mutters, completely disgusted with himself, saying he should have known Dante would pull a stunt like this. He thought claiming her publicly would be a shield, but it just painted a giant target on her back. Stella steps up to him, her heart totally breaking at his guilt. Here is the reality check, chat. We try to control everything, but love completely strips away our armor. It forces the absolute toughest people to realize that protecting someone else is way harder than just protecting yourself. He spins around, and the pure agony in this guy's dark eyes literally steals for the breath from her lungs. He actually whispers that maybe loving her is weakness he cannot afford. Boom. Those words hit her like a straight punch to the gut. She asks if he really believes that. Sebastian just drags a hand through his hair, pouring a heavy glass of scotch. He admits that seeing Dante anywhere near her made him want to burn his entire bloodline into ash. He downs the drink, his voice is shaking with some rare, heavy vulnerability, admitting that kind of blinding rage is dangerous. Stella just walks over and takes the glass away. It is the wild tragedy of true romance. The exact same love that completely saves our soul is often the very thing that destroys our peace of mind. Listen to me, guys. You and I have seen this exact standoff before, where intense love clashes with absolute panic. They are standing in the dim lighting of the penthouse, and Stella demands he look at her. When Sebastian finally locks eyes, it is a complete storm of terror and devotion. She tells him straight up she chose him, knowing all the red flags. He cannot just stash her away now that things are getting real. She presses her hand to his chest, feeling his heart going crazy under that expensive suit. She is no fragile side character. She is his equal. Sebastian argues she has no idea what she is asking for, but Stella does not budge. She tells him to stop hiding the ugly truth and let her into the dark. Truly, a real partnership means stepping into the shadows together. Stella is not backing down, her voice laced with absolute iron. She tells him you cannot be a partner in the light if you get left in the shadows. The Sebastian stares at her, a brutal mental war going on. Finally, the boss caves. He asks if she wants the raw truth, and when she nods, the tea is spilled. For 6 straight months, the Calabrese syndicate has been draining his territory, flipping his guys, and hijacking shipments. His voice drops to this dead, terrifying calm. Trying to kidnap her was their ultimate declaration of war, thinking he would fold to protect his girl. When Stella asks if he will, he flashes this chilling smile and says not a chance. The families meet tomorrow. Listen, sometimes the only way to protect your peace is to fully prepare for absolute ruin. He swears that anyone who even side-eyes will face a wrath, making war look like a total joke. Sebastian cups her face so gently, which is wild compared to the sheer violence coming out of his mouth. He is literally planning to wipe the entire Calabrese bloodline off the map. Hearing a guy casually talk about erasing a whole family should be a massive red flag. But love changes people, right? Instead of freaking out, Stella feels this crazy satisfaction knowing he would burn the city down for her. She looks him dead in the eyes and asks how she can help. Sebastian is totally stunned, telling her it is not her fight. but she claims it the second danger knocked. A real lesson here is that when you truly love someone, their biggest battles automatically become your battles too. She demands to know what she needs to do. In that quiet moment makes something massive shifts in Sebastian's eyes, pure, unfiltered respect. He tells her she is walking into that mob meeting, right by his side. She is going to wear his ring and his mother's necklace, showing the whole criminal underworld. She is not some weak link. She is a total queen stepping into the whole boss era.
Stella agrees instantly. Sebastian pulls her in tight,
asking the universe how he got so lucky to find her. But she cheats him with the ultimate reverse card, reminding him with a smile that she found him. He confesses the night he put his jacket over her changed everything. It reminds us that sometimes the absolute smallest act of kindness can completely rewrite the entire trajectory of your life. Tilting her head back, Stella tells him to prove it. She does not want his money, his armed guards, or some crazy violent revenge plot. She just wants him, entirely in the present moment. Honestly, dropping your walls and showing true vulnerability is the ultimate flex. Sebastian's eyes go completely dark as his heavy emotional walls finally shatter. Stella whispers that she is so done with waiting and wants all of him. The kiss that happens next is pure main character energy. It is not polite or shy. It is 2 years of starvation meeting an absolute feast. He pauses just for a second to ask if she is completely sure. When she says yes, he literally sweeps her off her feet. Taking that absolute leap of faith for someone you love is the bravest move a person can make. His bedroom is this insane, shadowy sanctuary of dark sheets and quiet money. Sebastian sets her down on the mattress with so much reverence, but his eyes are totally hungry. He admits, his voice super thick, that he has pictured this exact moment 1,000 times, just imagining her in his space. Stella tells him to stop dreaming and make it a reality. What goes down next is a total surrender from both of them. He treats her like he just found his religion. It is the perfect collision of two lonely souls snapping together like missing puzzle pieces finally making sense. Afterward, they are tangled up in the ruined sheets, listening to his heartbeat. Finding peace in someone else's arms proves that we are never truly meant to face this absolute chaos of a world all alone. The quiet totally shatters when Sebastian drops a massive truth bomb about Seth. Remember that random dinner invitation? Total setup. He actually pushed another guy to ask out just to see Evie self-sabotage. Good. He calls himself a massive coward for being scared to claim her. But the second she actually said yes to the date, he absolutely lost his mind, plotting to ruin it. Then the Calabrese crew attacked, flipping his jealous breakdown into a hardcore fight to save her life. It is wild how life works. The universe has a totally funny way of forcing our hand when we refuse to play our cards. If you will not step up and make the tough choice, fate will make it for you. He cups her face, his voice totally breaking as he apologizes for risking her life just because he was terrified to catch feelings. Stella looks at this ruthless mafia boss and gives him the ultimate she gives him. But wait, it comes with a massive price tag. No more games. No more mind games. No more testing her loyalty. If he wants her, he has to go all in and stop trying to hide his dark side. Sebastian kisses her, swearing he is 100% hers. They barely sleep, burning through 2 entire years of built-up tension. By the time the sun comes up, Stella knows her soul is permanently locked in. The morning rushes in fast, and the chaos is just beginning with the mob bosses waiting. True commitment means facing the absolute worst storms together, no matter what waits outside. At 8 in the morning, a teller rolls up with armor disguised as designer fashion. The goal is to scream one undisputed fact. Stella belongs to the king. She picks a killer emerald dress, matching the heavy rocks on her neck, sliding narrowing into heels sharp enough to make mob bosses look her in the eye. Sebastian watches her glow up with pure hunger and massive pride. He tweaks her jewels and hounds her his queen. Their battlefield is a shady banquet room at a wine company, pushing dirty money. They kick the doors open to find 12 ruthless guys holding the city hostage. Here is a solid piece of life advice. True confidence is the absolute best armor you can wear. When you fully own your space and stand tall, even the most dangerous monsters are forced to respect you. The room goes dead silent. Sebastian walks in with Stella glued to his side. He speaks with a voice dripping in absolute boss energy, dropping the assistant cover to introduce Stella as his future wife. He declares she is now under the full protection of his bloodline. You can actually hear the gears grinding in these killers' heads as they do the math. By flexing this romance, Sebastian just wrapped her in bulletproof armor. A mob boss named Antonio raises his glass for a fake toast. The rest of the sheep follow along, but Stella spots those toxic, bitter glares. Always remember this vital life lesson. People will loudly clap for your success in public while hiding deep jealousy in private. Not everyone wants to see you win, so keep your circle small. The empty Calabrese seats scream pending doom, where Sebastian wastes zero time. Hand firmly on Stella's back, he drops a massive nuke. He tells the council the Calabritriders tried to snatch his future wife last night. This is not petty drama, it is a direct attack on their underworld peace. The room erupts into panicked whispers. You simply never touch a boss's family. Sebastian shuts them up and forces a brutal vote. The Calabreses push their luck, and now he demands they strip their power and feed their turf to the loyal dogs at the table. The tension is suffocating, but here is a solid truth to live by. Reckless actions always carry heavy consequences. If you disrespect the wrong people and cross those hard boundaries, you will permanently lose your seat at the table. You and I know tearing down an empire is never clean. The vote is unanimous, wiping out the Calabrese family with a show of hands and tossing their turf to the winners like leftovers. As the doors shut, Sebastian tightens his grip on Stella's waist. They won this round, but the real war is just warming up. A massive mob syndicate does not just roll over quietly. There is going to be brutal retaliation and paranoia. But honestly, Stella feels completely calm walking out. Here is the ultimate lesson about relationships. True partnership is not about running from the flames. It is about standing directly in the fire side by side. They are bound by a fierce love that beats any Mafia contract. Stepping into the sunlight, Sebastian pulls her close, pressing a deep kiss to her temple. In the quiet aftermath, Sebastian actually thanks her. When Stella asks why, his dark eye lock onto hers. He thanks her for having the courage to choose his dangerous, chaotic life. He knows the road ahead will be brutal, filled with endless paranoia and targets on their backs. But he swears to spend every waking breath proving she picked the right guy. Stella just smiles, telling him she already knows she did. Loving a mob boss means constantly watching your back, but it also means being worshipped, understood, and fiercely protected from a toxic world. Here is the final lesson. Sometimes finding exactly where you belong requires the bravery to walk straight into the dark. It is a partnership built on explosive passion. She is entirely his, and he is completely hers forever.